There's a couple things in FIBA that I like when it comes to the rules, and obviously I've played a lot of FIBA games being part of Team USA.
Okay, I didn't expect LeBron James to be the one pushing the FIBA rules conversation into the spotlight. But as a European who knows NBA and FIBA very well, I'm really glad it happened. Recently, on his Mind the Game podcast Q&A with Steve Nash, they looked at rule changes the NBA could implement. Some of them make a lot of sense, some of them they rightfully doubt it. So in this video, I'll break down which FIBA rules LeBron wants to see in the NBA and which ones I personally think we should consider. Let's start with LeBron's list. First up, basket interference, or rather the lack of it in FIBA.
I've been very intrigued with the goaltending rule.
I was going to ask you.
I actually love it. It's exciting. It doesn't happen as much as you would think.
Right.
You know, and even when you're playing against the international guys and this is their rule, you know, there's times where the ball is like tinkling around the rim and they just, you kind of get like, oh shit, I should have went got it.
It's
like,
harder than it looks.
It's harder than it looks.
For those who've been only watching the NBA, here's how it works. In FIBA games, once the ball hits the rim, it's live. As a defender, you can knock it off the rim or swat it all the way out of bounds, while on offense, you can tip it in no matter if it's above the cylinder or not. And like Bron said, he actually loves it because it adds something raw and reactive that the NBA just simply doesn't have. And I get it. Imagine someone like 2016 LeBron in that system. Chase down blocks are already his thing, now imagine him legally smacking anything off the rim. Or just going up for a putback without the fear of offensive interference. It sounds terrifying. But the reality is, when it comes to defense, it's actually much harder than it seems. In fact, when watching EuroLeague or FIBA games, I often catch myself thinking, why didn't this guy just jump up and swat that bouncing ball off? Well, probably because you're boxing out, rotating, defending, and now you have to react perfectly to a ball bouncing around the rim. Yeah, good luck being consistent with that. Still, in a league full of freak athletes like Giannis or Wemby, I'm not sure this would enhance the game. You might end up punishing smart floaters or soft touch finishes because some 7-footer can just delete them at the rim. I can imagine a scenario where at some point guys would just start practicing shots that are only nothing but net. And with the NBA already being tilted toward length and athleticism, this might break the balance. But I agree with LeBron on this part. Why not test it in the G League or in the Summer League?
We can try a couple. I don't think the whole FIBA rules, I don't, but it's some things that we could possibly like, you know, just tinker with maybe in the G League and the Summer League and see how it looks.
Next, physicality. In FIBA basketball, you can really bang. Pause. I mean, there's more contact, more body, more grit, and Bron says it's awesome. Immaturity aside, he actually raises a fair question.
I've played a lot of FIBA games being part of Team USA. The physicality that you're allowed to play with, you know, is awesome. But we talked about this too. You're asking this question, but do fans want to see playoff basketball physicality for a full 82-game season?
NBA playoff basketball is elite because the intensity skyrockets. But the regular season, a lot of it is vibes and wide open layups. If you crank up the physicality, yeah, it might slow down the scoring a little. But it also might bring out more competitive games in January and February when half of the league is sleepwalking. In contrast, in European basketball, especially during the most important games of the season, we often see very low scoring games. That's because the talent level is lower, so when you allow more contact and sharper defense, it often doesn't result in the best basketball. But the NBA is in a much better position. It doesn't have to worry that allowing more freedom for defenders or seeking better balance will harm the quality of the product. The players are simply too talented for any defense to completely ruin the rhythm and fluidity of the game. Alright, quick pause. I recently saw that Sacramento's Domantas Sabonis is using this wearable called Pulsetto to boost his athletic performance. It helps him sleep and recover faster. A couple of weeks in, I also noticed Matas Buzalis is using it too. So it seems like this vagus nerve stimulation is quietly taking over the NBA, which got me curious, so I decided to try it myself. And yeah, while the electric impulses felt a little bit odd at first, I got used to it early recently, and I'm honestly just happy to share it with you guys. This wearable made me sleep much more consistently, and my sleep scores have been at an all-time high. So if you want to try it out too, hit the link in the description below and boost your recovery game because it matters to all of us. Let's move on to something a little bit spicier: zone defense, like actual unrestricted zone defense. In the NBA, you've got the defensive 3-second rule, which has made NBA centers build a habit of tap dancing around the paint every 3 seconds. But in FIBA, if you're a big man, you can camp there as long as you want. It's the reason why a 7'3" center like Walter Tavares, who was way too slow for the NBA, is such a threat in the EuroLeague. He's often just camping the paint, and teams are forced to play from the perimeter. And Bron's not really into that, because let's be real, nobody really wants to watch Gobert or Wemby stand under the basket for 48 minutes. But I think there's a missed opportunity here. Right now, the NBA is completely built around defensive freedom, spacing, movement, and shooting. Coaches have to bend over backwards to protect the rim while still guarding 5 shooters. But in Europe, defenders can sag off non-shooters, double early, and protect the paint without getting whistled for standing still. This opens up so many more strategies. For example, parking your big man on the opponent's worst shooter and letting him live in the paint. That would really shift pick and roll defense, help schemes and rotations in the NBA. Would it hurt some highlight plays? Sure, but it might actually bring more variety and creativity to the game. Right now, every NBA defense is just trying to survive instead of being the defiant factor. Alright, now let's shift to something more structural: 40-minute games or 10-minute quarters.
It's intriguing.
It is.
Because the game happens so damn fast.
Right.
So there's no...
Isn't that crazy how international games can be over?
Oh my goodness. Yes. And you have no, like, there's no easing into an international game. You know,
right.
And that gives it a little bit more like sense of urgency.
That sense of immediate intensity is something we see all the time in FIBA. Every minute matters, every possession matters, and there's no time for just coasting. Adam Silver has even publicly floated this idea.
Something else that I'm a fan of, and I'm probably in a minority, as we get more involved in global basketball, the NBA is the only league that plays 48 minutes. I am a fan of 4 10-minute quarters. I'm not sure that many others are. I mean, putting aside what it means for records and things like that.
That's the thing, I guess you can't just put it aside. Legacy is the biggest problem here. Shorten the game and every stat-based debate goes out of the window. Points per game, minutes played, career totals, all of it becomes apples and oranges. And while some of us are tired of these stat-chasing narratives, it's a huge part of what makes the NBA. I mean, if you kill that, who's gonna be shouting nonsense on ESPN? But okay, from a fan perspective, it actually makes a lot of sense. Shorter, more dynamic games with less downtime. As a European, I'll be honest, NBA games can feel long as hell, especially when you're up at 4 or 5 AM. All the commercial breaks, timeouts, and reviews drag things out significantly. But then of course comes the business side of things too. More commercial breaks equals more revenue. Actually, never mind. I'm sure the NBA would manage to keep that same slots even with shorter quarters. Still, it's an idea worth testing. You don't have to start in the NBA. Use the Summer League, use the G League. And that's why I think Silver is right. The product has to evolve, but evolve smartly. Now here's where I'll present my own wish list. Because while LeBron focused on the big rules, there are a few FIBA details I would love to see the NBA steal. First one, stricter screening rules. In FIBA, moving screens actually get called. Can you imagine? But in the NBA, it's actually a joke. Screeners often slide, lean, spin, and nothing gets whistled. That gives ball handlers so much unfair space, and defenders are constantly fighting a losing battle. Just call the rules like they're written and allow defenders to impact the game properly. There's no need to overcomplicate it. Second, clean up the travels and carries. Look, we all love highlight plays, But some of these gathers and hesitation dribbles are just flat out illegal. I mean, I even feel weird having to justify something that's written in the rulebook. If FIBA can call it, so can the NBA. Or let me put it this way, if guys on Team USA can clean up their act during the Olympics or the World Cup, they could do that in the NBA too. It would just take a little bit of time. Again, this is just something that got lost in modern day NBA, and it's about time we restored the fundamentals of basketball. Third and last one, fast inbounding after dead balls. This isn't exactly a FIBA rule as of yet, but in Spain's Premier Basketball League, ACB, when the ball goes out of bounds or there's a turnover, the refs don't have to touch it. The other team can just grab it and go without any breaks. It's such a small thing, but it actually makes the game pace feel more fluid. No more standing around waiting for the ref and letting defenses set up. I guess that's something FIBA should implement themselves first. And before I wrap this up, one more thing, not all change has to be dramatic. The NBA has its own identity, space and pace, athleticism, star power, I get it. And even LeBron admits that that identity is what makes it special.
I think the NBA should stay with its ethos of trying to make this as exciting, athletic. But that doesn't mean that FIBA gaming isn't great,
Oh, no,
and
for
that
sure.
we could experiment with
Yeah.
more things.
Yep, for sure.
To meet in the middle.
But that doesn't mean there's no room for experimentation in search of more balance. What's the worst thing that happens? You test a few rules in the G League and the Summer League and decide they don't work. Cool. But what if some of them actually improve the product, or at least create a version of the game that's a little tighter and a little cleaner, and a little bit more competitive at the end of the day? With Adam Silver's ambition to make the game more global than ever, I think this is the perfect moment to explore that middle ground. So here's my question to you guys. If you could take just one FIBA rule and drop it into the NBA tomorrow, what would it be? Let me know in the comments below. Don't forget to hit the like button if you enjoyed this video, and as always, subscribe for more NBA takes through an overseas lens.